Before we begin, 3 messages. So, you've taken some of the advice that has come from Untether.tv guests, built an app, and now you're turning your attention to generating some hard-earned revenue. Then you should be looking at Pontiflex app leads. Some of your peers who are using app leads are earning CPMs 100 times the industry average. And if you need any other reasons to start, I'll give you 2 more. You can run sign-up ads from top brands, the ones that you recognize, and it won't take your precious users out of your app. Go to appleads.com, that's appleads.com, to sign up. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Here's a riddle. How do you build native cross-platform mobile applications quickly without having to rewrite code and hire consultants at a huge cost? Titanium from Appcelerator. Called the easy button for mobile application development, it allows you to focus more on what's important, getting product out the door. Join the more than 1.5 million active developers who have created over 13,000 apps at www.appcelerator.com. Hello everybody, welcome to Untether.tv. My name is Rob Woodbridge, your host, as we go down this path of finding mobile rock stars and interviewing them and trying to understand what made them successful and what they've done right, maybe a little bit of what they've done wrong, but generally just getting an understanding of what this mobile industry is bringing and some of these guys who are pushing the boundaries. And with me today is Stephen Smith, all the way from Alexandria, Virginia, which is kind of, as I was saying, kind of go down to Rochester and straight down from where I am, and you'll arrive at Alexandria around the DC area. And he's the co-founder of myRete. myRete?
That's good enough.
Okay. And they've created a product called Who's Here. And we're going to get an understanding a little bit about the concepts around proximity networking and understanding about Who's Here. And, I'm fascinated by group messaging, group chats, but this is an interesting one because these guys have had 3 million downloads of their products, just surpassed 3 million downloads of their products. And within the product, the 3 million users have exchanged over 2 billion text messages. So these are big numbers. And as Stephen has said to me, that the first line of code was actually written in what was it, the March of '08. And that's a long time before what we're seeing right now, which is the craze for group messaging and group chatting and companies like Yobongo and Fast Society and all these other guys that are starting to pop up. So pioneers. Stephen, is that a good way to describe you guys?
If I like it, sure. I mean, we were absolutely the very first person, or first entity in the chat with people nearby space on smartphones. People have tried it with text, SMS, back in the day, but on smartphones, iOS, we were there July '08 when the App Store was launched.
See, that's incredible. Well, listen, I can't wait to get into this and understand everything that you guys are doing and what you've done. And, you've created a social network and obviously massively social with 3 million people. So, Stephen, thank you for coming on and telling your story. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. We're glad to tell it.
Well, so why don't we start with, myRete?
Yep.
Okay, so talk to me about, first of all, what does myRete mean?
So rete is the Italian word for network. So it's a play on my network.
Okay.
And fundamentally, when we got into Who's Here, this was really about, you are the venue and interacting with those who are around you that you may know, but more than likely, almost cosmically, certainly, that you do not yet know.
Yep.
So it allows a whole new experience outside of the social graph. And so it allows you to create a whole new network that is your network.
So this is basically, it can be anonymous and it can be, people that you know inside of a room, right? But I mean, what did you see back in 2008 that would lead you to believe that this was a good place to be, a good business to be in?
Well, when it all actually goes back to late '07. I don't remember the exact timing of it, but when Apple announced that they were going to release an SDK for third-party developers to write software for the iPhone.
Yeah.
My business partner and I, we've known each other for 20 years, and got a call from him. He's like, Steve, game-changing opportunity here. And I really got it when I got that call, that fundamentally Apple was going to build this gigantic shopping mall. And day one, it was going to be empty. Yeah. And those people that were there with their virtual storefronts, if you will, Apple was going to be promoted, and it's going to be a rare opportunity to be at the center of a online aggregator of demand, the Apple iTunes App Store. Yep. So the whole go-to-market strategy was be there when, it's App 1, App 100, App 1000. They just crossed 500,000 apps. And so, a challenge for someone getting that today is the App Store, because it's so popular, is becoming more and more like the web, where it's a needle in a needle stack. And so the go-to-market strategy was be there at the start when it's this huge mall and there's only a handful of storefronts in it, and you get the attention of the customers.
So, was the idea just you said, listen, there's a big opportunity. Now we have to come up with an idea. Was that the order?
Yeah. Well, it was. So fundamentally, yes. And what was interesting is we immediately started spitballing ideas back in late 07, early 08. And my partner, Bryant, he kept coming back to, he had the iPhone first generation from like the start.
Yeah.
And he just fell in love with the device. And he kept telling me the story, even before the SDK was announced, that it's like he was sitting at, I don't recall, it was a restaurant or a bar, but it's like, you could see some single women. It's like, man, if only I knew something about them, had something in common in this location-aware, real-time basis. That could be very powerful for breaking the ice and having a new relationship created off just that little bit of information on your profile. So we spitballed a bunch of ideas, and he kept coming back to that. And I was like, you know what? That's a pretty solid idea. And so he quit his job in March of 08, and he started writing code, and I followed along a handful of months later.
So, he quit. He quit his job. You guys quit your job just on the premise of being introduced to some people in a bar.
Well,
I know, yeah.
Well, yeah.
the premise there, though, right?
But it's 1 + 1 = 3 here, right?
Yeah.
Because we believe in the concept and who's here, but again, it comes back to here is a once in a 15, 20 year opportunity. The last time we saw this was 1995. Yeah. Now I created a consulting company creating web properties for folks, but didn't have the gravitas, the courage, or the capital just to walk away from a great job. Benefits, had a pension at that time.
Pension, I haven't heard that in a while. That's right.
So, didn't have the courage to walk away from it. But this time, a lot more experience, a lot more confidence, and seeing this great opportunity, all in.
Really great observation there, though. That I think we were probably in the same boat in the 90s during the web world, which was, I was deeply participating in that world, but the kind of way I describe it is, and maybe there's a better analogy, but I don't have it, which is a huge football stadium. And, during the internet era, that stadium held, 100,000 people, and there were 12 or 18 players on the field, right? That was it. And then there was millions of people in line to get into the stadium, to get onto the stadium floor. And for me, I was like, I had the best seats in the house. I was like, front row, 50-yard line, watching the players, but I was not a player, right? I participated in the internet world, but I wasn't on the field, right? I wasn't like a Mark Andreessen. I wasn't out there pushing. And then you thought this was a big opportunity, and I got a great vantage point. Same with you. Flip forward 15 years to the mobile space, and you're like, screw this. I'm not going to sit in the 50-yard line. I'm going to be on that field, and I'm going to take that effort that I missed 15 years ago in the mobiles in the web space.
That's exactly right.
Okay, feel the exact same way, right? This is what you thought 15 years ago was a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's like, hey, okay, this is definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. This is bigger than that. And the opportunities are massive, and you seem to have proved that out with 3 million downloads and 2 billion text messages. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to paint that picture because that's this is a great opportunity, obviously, and enough for you guys to. I didn't want to belittle the reason why you quit your job just to meet some girls at a bar.
Well, I am married. So.
Okay, so
I come in. We have several use cases, popular use cases in the app. I come at it from a different lens.
Okay, that's right. Well, so you guys, so from the time that he started, it's Bryant, right?
Correct.
So when he started coding in the March of 2008, and you joined him a couple of months later, from that, what you launched in when? July 2008, or was
July.
it later?
Yeah, it was like the 27th, 28th of July, so a couple of weeks after the day one of the App Store, but nonetheless.
Yes.
Month zero, we were there.
Okay, and what happened after that? Was it like was it a kind of an immediate rush, or was it a mediocre rush, or what was it like to be there at the beginning?
Well, the first thing was it's like, okay, it's submitted.
Yeah.
And it's just like
exactly.
What's going to happen now?
And the process wasn't great back then.
It was fine. It was just you just didn't. You put it in and you just wait and see.
Yeah.
It wasn't good, bad, or indifferent. It was just we didn't know. We were ignorant of how the process was going to work. And then we had been using it on test devices, simulators, and it was like, oh my God, we can use it for real now. And in the first day, hundreds, thousands of users, and it was just really cool because you're interacting with people. I'm interacting with people in Washington, D.C. I can also see people in China. Yeah. I'm seeing Bryant in the application. I'm seeing, some friends and relatives. And it's just like, you're texting away. How cool is this? So those first few days, weeks, thousands of users growing at a pretty quick pace. And it was just really neat because, it fundamentally was about who's here. But let's pick out a number out of the air, say 25,000, 50,000 users in those early days. You can interact with a fair percentage of the entire network, and they could be anywhere in the world. Yeah. And it was really fascinating to be meeting people all over the place.
So, as a developer, it's such a thrill to get product in somebody else's hands. I think that's the crowning achievement. But to start to see the numbers kind of scale up, 25 or 50,000, all the way up to the numbers that we're talking about today, that's got to be somewhat. It obviously validates your business idea, the concept around what you're building.
Well, definitely. It's we continue to evolve, but super props to Brian. He as we were spitballing business ideas, he just kept coming back to this like this is a good idea. It's a good idea, and I think it's better than we could have imagined.
That's so great, isn't it? So, flash forward to today. You made an announcement recently. Today's the 25th. I saw it on your website as announced at the 25th. But that you've surpassed 3 million users. Now, how different is the product today versus those early days in when you launched in month zero of the App Store?
Well, it's different in probably a whole heck of a lot of ways. A couple that include, it's now really a global phenomenon. We literally stopped counting after we got to 150 countries. In the early days, it was, the app itself is a lot more sophisticated today than it was back then. It was pre-revenue back in those days. It was just put out there and see what happens, see if users like it and will use it. And now we're making money. We are profitable, despite not taking any institutional investment. We got some. Stay tuned next week. We'll be making an announcement on some revenue numbers that are pretty impressive. So it's still any small business still a very scary roller coaster ride, very stressful. But it's nice that we're getting to the point where the scale and the certainty today on the revenue side makes it a little easier to take deeper breaths and and not be, hanging on for dear life. Is this going to work? What am I doing to my retirement savings?
I hear that. Well, I mean, let's talk about revenue, because I mean, when you guys both quit your jobs, revenue is not certain. You kind of have an inkling of an idea of maybe how you're going to generate revenue, although maybe even not. All those years ago. I mean, how do you guys generate money as a result of this? 3 million users is a lot of users, right?
So there's two fundamental revenue streams. One is advertising, and when we started this, mobile advertising did not exist. Google was really the first one to get in the space with adapting their core advertising engine, and they were awesome. I have to say, great to work with. But as more and more ad networks came in, it's like, well, now we can start looking at this not just about advertising, but trying to get the best mix of advertising on a certain geography. So we'll see how different networks are performing on a continent basis, a country basis, a state basis, and we can target our ads to the network that's performing well. I'll give you one thing so we've got our own software that helps manage this. A great firm out of Baltimore, Millennium Media, they contacted us one time and said, hey, we got this special high-yielding campaign going on for the Johns Hopkins campus. I mean, we didn't have a ton of density in Baltimore, but it was good enough. So we can literally say, all right, Johns Hopkins and the surrounding neighborhoods, Millennium Media, you get all of our requests for ads in that space over that period of time. So so advertising revenue is the stream, but one of the opportunities that we've seen is, well, we really have customized our software to take advantage of who may be having high yield campaigns. The other revenue stream, virtual goods. I became a student of Zynga. Zynga, they are brilliant at, I always wondered if they have a psychologist on staff that just figures out what motivates people to spend real money for something that is virtual. And, they have to determine the worth emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we paid a lot of attention to what Zynga was doing, is doing, and we by no means have come as close to their model, but they are a North Star for a company like us in terms of trying to get increased unit revenues. So one of the very first things that we did was virtual plane tickets. So you roll back to those early days when the 10,000 users, 20, 50,000 users, you can see people all over the planet. As we got more and more popular, the density kept getting closer and closer. I can't see users out of the DC metro area with my settings, and frankly, at my age, I'm outside the core demographic. So people kept saying, I miss being able to see, Italians or, chatting with Chinese, because I'm a high school student, studying Chinese, and I could send free text messages in Chinese with native speakers. So I'm like, well, we can scratch that itch. So we introduced virtual plane tickets. So for $1.99, you can move your profile to Beijing, and
that's wicked.
If you want.
So I mean, I want to stop here for a second, because I mean that, when did you implement something like that?
I would have to go to a spreadsheet real
and see the revenue curve just kind of go like this. Is it
right? That was probably early 09.
Okay.
Don't hold me to it, but probably early 09.
Okay.
And then we've layered on additional virtual gifts or virtual goods over the course of time.
But it's so innovative to start to think, okay, so how do you like most people would just say, okay, we'll just open that up. But I love the revenue first mentality that you've got here, which is, listen, you know what, we gotta make a living out of this, and advertising is one way to do it. I want to come back to that, but so you add $1.99, you charge somebody $1.99, and they can move their profile to see other people in different countries. What else have you done in that virtual goods side that is because this doesn't? I almost think that this doesn't lend itself well to virtual goods, but here you are, labeling it as a virtual good and opening up services as a result.
Yeah, so a couple other things. Dating is one of the huge use cases of Who's Here.
Yeah.
We know people that have found their inner ladies man because of Who's Here. We know people that have gone off and gotten married because of Who's Here.
That's amazing.
So including a woman from Italy and a guy from Dallas, remarkably.
That was $1.99 well spent.
Right? Seeing that, we added a whole set of virtual gifts that you can send to another user. So not only is there kind of this, hey, that's different than a hey, how you doing, or whatever your line is to someone you're interested in, but it also does give you real benefit. So if I was to send a text or a virtual beer for 99 cents to this woman, I'd go to the top of her inbox. But I'd stay there up until, let's say you were like, well, I'm a little more savvy, I'll send the virtual dozen roses for $1.99. You bump me down to number 2, you go to number 1. And then you stay there until someone buys, like, say, the virtual diamond ring for $5. Yep. I'm 3, you're 2, and then the other guy's number 1. So there is true value in that, and it's unique. So there's a lot of gifts that are dating oriented. There's some that are kind of humor oriented, like if someone's puts on their profile like, oh, last night was too much fun, I'm paying the price today. We have like a virtual bubbling Alka-Seltzer type drink you could send them. When the Gulf Coast oil spill happened, we have what we call channels where there's like the virtual beers and drinks, there's the virtual flowers, there's the virtual other category. So we created a whole category of gifts that was oil themed and conservation themed, and we said we would give, I don't remember the exact number, 50-75% of the proceeds to the Gulf Coast oil fund. We ended up giving 100% of it because I wish we'd raise more money, but it's also really neat in this that we can also do something for others. So it's we still have to run a business here, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But can we take a time out every now and then and do something for others? Absolutely. And so we're now thinking about what's the next charity that we're going to support. Don't know yet, but hopefully something around the holidays this year.
Well, it just, I think that when you think about virtual goods, you think about, Zynga obviously comes to mind, obviously very clearly, where you accelerate your game as a result of buying currency, virtual currencies, or, the approach that you guys took, which was very unique, is that applying it to communicating or sending gifts like they do in Facebook really does have a massive opportunity, because you can just keep doing it. You can keep expanding it as you've found.
Sure. Exactly.
So it's a treasure trove, isn't it?
It does have that potential. I mean, the wannabe financial guy in me is just like, you amortize out the development costs and it's pure profit, right? Yeah. So, but you have to tie it in with, is it a good use case? Do users get it? Is there value that people derive from it? Yeah. Whether it be the better results or the fact that now someone's actually going to respond to them because they've done something where the recipient knows you just spent some money on them. Right.
And that's a big thing. I've heard a lot of people say, the value of that 99 cents is augmented by the fact that there's an effort that's been put into it, there's a cost associated with it. So everybody gets a Facebook happy birthday wish. It's lazy birthday wishes, right? Send me a postcard or something, or send me a letter where you've actually put some effort and some thought into it, or send me something of value, like send me a 99-cent rose or something like that for my birthday. Don't, but unless you want to, I'd be okay with that. But you know what I mean? It's like it's a little bit more effort than just simply sending me a happy birthday wish. And I think that's there's a balance there, and it's such a low cost. Did you guys find a threshold for the cost of these products?
Right, we certainly do some experimenting, but frankly, you find something that is working reasonably well, and you go right back to innovating. It's like, we are not out to try to, well, I'll rephrase it's a very fine line between monetizing users, and users will really figure it out very quickly if you are trying to nickel and dime them.
Sure.
So you can put all the virtual goods you want, but if that is your featured drumbeat, you're going to really have some upset customers. So we figure out something that works. We might tweak it a little bit, and then we move on to the core application, improving the experience, getting more users. It's you just got to keep moving on and mix it up with features versus the monetization. Because, like I said, it'll leave a bad taste in people's mouth if you're too singular focused.
So one of the big keys for virtual goods is numbers, large numbers of users, or certainly more than 10, but a good base, because there's only a percentage of them that are going to actually participate in this. Do you guys kind of measure that participation, and how many users was it before you said, listen, this is actually a good revenue stream for us, a good model?
Yes, we do measure it. We measure all, the advertising, the virtual goods on a daily basis. When you are a small company, yes, it's a very small fragment that takes advantage of clicking on ads or buy something. Yep. But when you're a small company and keep your expenses very lean, which we do, yep. It doesn't take a lot to have it be a material revenue stream for your business. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's like I kind of equate it to like pop syrup, right? They cost you 10 cents and you charge $1.50, right? And that, because that's great. That's a profit. And somebody who's using your service realizes that if they want to continue to use this service, that there has to be revenue somewhere down the road in order for you to continue using it, right?
Yeah, we hope our users understand that. Sometimes they don't.
Well, yeah. There's that free mentality that's out there right now, which is free means free, and it's just there. It's like oxygen, right? So the big challenge, I think, is that. But there are a small percentage that drive the revenue, and do you have an idea of where did you look at it? Was it user 1 million or user 2 million that you started to think, okay, this is really, even if we keep our expenses low, this is sustainable revenue for us, for the company to help grow? Was there a number that you remember?
Well, I'm going to turn the question around. It's more like, do not run out of money. That is the number one business concern. Yeah. And, as the landscape has changed or evolved, certain things become more or less effective. The early Google days, ad days, we were in the beta, we were like, we are geniuses. The user base was this, and the revenue was phenomenal. Well, more and more apps came out there. All of a sudden, the amount of apps requesting ads was surpassing really the ability to place those ads. So we couldn't fill nearly 100% for a period of time of our ad requests. And so A, the fill rate goes down. B, the unit revenue is going down because there's so many people like us asking for, give us an ad, well, we can pay you less and less. Yeah. So, all right, don't run out of money. All right, virtual goods, the plane tickets. And then, there's a big change in the ad market. I guess it was spring of last year, and unit revenues really took a big hit. So it's like, all right, well, now we got to do broaden the virtual goods revenue line so that we are not nearly as dependent on the advertising side. And it was, it just comes back to, for us at least, do not run out of money. Yeah. And so we can keep growing the business. And so it's been this, it's not, back to your question, it wasn't a certain number and a certain revenue per user ratio. It is what is working well enough that we can keep this going, keep growing, get back to innovation, because fundamentally it's going to be innovation that is going to get someone to say, ooh, I've got Who's Here and it's cool, and say that to their friends, and that they need to go try it. Because that's how we've grown, is really the virality of this.
Right.
And don't run out of money, get back to the innovation as fast as possible.
So, I mean, when you talk about that, is that, virtual goods was as a direct result of the fact that it became a little bit more competitive and not as profitable going the in-app advertising route, right? So that's where you guys started. So I want to talk about that, because you said that you're using multiple ad networks to feed, basically, based on proximity or location or country or, how this has got to be scientific. You've got an application, or you've built something that actually manages that for you or monitors that for you. This has got to be a scientific approach to optimizing advertisements. Was that a complicated process, or is that just something that you like? It's like an on-the-job MBA.
It's actually not that complicated at all.
Good.
You basically say, I'm going to send a reasonable sample of ad requests to all these networks for the following geographies.
Yep.
All right. I'll just make up numbers here. I sent 1,000 ads. I got a hopefully 100% fill rate. If not, do you need to be concerned about that?
Yep.
And then what is the unit revenue per network? The ECPM. Earnings per 1,000 impressions, and you score it, and he who has the biggest number wins. And
you put all it, but it's trial and error, right? That's what you're saying.
Trial and error. I'll call it sampling.
Yeah, you're saying okay, yeah, and then do you go whole hog into that, or is it a gradual approach? Do you like, when you find something that works, do you just kind of shift everything over there and do that until it doesn't work?
I think it's a little, case dependent.
Okay.
If someone comes to us and says, we got a huge campaign going on in the UK, and here's the unit revenues you should expect, we'll go all in.
Okay.
And we got some idea of the parameters of their campaign or campaigns. If we don't, it's probably more often than not a little more iterative. Can it sustain? Because frankly, it could look good for 1 hour, but if it's just one campaign in that given market, and all we're showing is that ad over and over and over, people are going to get tired of that ad very quickly. The clicks stop, the revenue stops.
Yeah. I guess the lesson here is that. It isn't just about displaying, going with one ad network and displaying one set of ads or one group of ads. It really is. It requires some attention quite often to be able to manage that, right? You've got to.
Yes.
You got to prune that, so to speak, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It requires a lot of attention.
It does. So
and then the business 101 coming back to the MBA is, and then it's the go back to what are your payment terms. Go back to where funds can be deducted from you through potentially no fault of your own. And I'm not going to name names, but there's one network that as we make decisions, we discount the unit revenue we're seeing by 35% because of the other side of the business. So,
and that's learned. Those are lessons learned, right? Yeah. It's really interesting to see that, because you've got to balance, I suppose, a small team, small company, you've got to balance that kind of monetization of the app, which is through advertising or through virtual goods, with the development of the app. And you've got to keep those in parallel, don't you? That somebody's got to manage the revenue growth and the right spot to be, and somebody's got to manage the product growth and the right spot to be inside for the product for your customers. You have a hard time balancing that, or is that why you and Bryant work so well together? Is that you've got that balance?
Well, I think part of the reason why Bryant and I work so well is we've known each other for 20 years. We were college dorm mates together at Washington University, St. Louis back in the day, and we've seen each other very regularly over the years. Kept very in touch. we have a lot of hobbies in common, so we really mesh well together. Brian's also probably the smartest guy I ever met. And then we have a colleague of ours, John Scarborough, who is charged with scaling out our server architecture. He's super brilliant. Brian's dad was family and friends investors from day one. He's a PhD in artificial intelligence.
Oh, nice.
So it's a good brain trust that comes together. It's very frictionless. There's really little drama. A team this small that knows each other so well over all these years. There's no worry about ulterior motives. We have everyone's back, so people are focused on the company, not on politics.
Yeah.
And it's just a very collegial. We're an alpha on something else right now, and Brian's architecting that out, and it's just like, what do you think? And we're all contributing to the vision. So it's just this kind of ongoing dialogue of what's the right balance. Not so much someone saying, all right, I'm the product guy, I'm the revenue guy, and this is my turn versus this is so and so's turn.
Yeah.
It's just all collaboration.
It's a great team. Like small teams, I love small teams because of the versatility. Right, you can make a decision really quickly as long as the team gets along very well. And you take the ego out of this, which it just seems like that's what you guys have got here. Do you hope to build this up with into a larger company, or are you content with driving profitable revenue? I mean, it sounds like a stupid question, but
So, I'd answer that there's content versus aspirations and goal. Are we content today? Almost. If we can keep growing this at this rate and continue to improve, that would be pretty interesting.
Okay.
Lifestyle business would be pretty cool, but what the real goal is to try to do something unique, something much larger. We're not going to throw out brand names that have just created new universes. But if we could become brand recognition on a material part of the planet, that's where we'd really love to get to. And we've got some great advisors as well that's one of the things that for any business, it's work your network, find the people who've done it and done it well, find the people who've done it and have a lot of lessons learned the hard way, and try to internalize those and take them on board. So we have a reasonable shot at this point in time of really taking it to 3 million is great, 2 billion text messages, fantastic. But we're still looking for, how do we get to 30 million? It's literally, on a piece of paper I have, here's what we need to get to do 30 million.
Yeah.
And then the real, the pie in the sky, here's how we get to, here's how.
Yes.
But, we definitely do have thoughts about what would we need to do to steer the ship today to bend it in a way that could have that kind of growth. And we spent a meaningful amount of time on that kind of thing. So, it's that some of the decisions today are either going to make or break getting that 30 million, getting to that 300 million.
So it's like, you balance, contentment with today, and stability, as we said at the beginning of the program, which was, it's not white knuckle time right now, but I think that when you start to ease up on the white knuckles, it's like, okay, so what's next? You get past that hurdle, and now it's okay. Now the ambition steps in and says, okay, look, 3 million's great. Because I bet you at 30,000, you were like, wow, God, 30,000 people. And then it was like, what would it take to get to 300,000 people? And then when you cross the million, right?
I should have put on the press release. It was in my the 3 million users, the download curve.
Yeah.
I mean, to your exact point. I mean, we'll be like, we're at 1,000 downloads a day. We're like, woohoo!
Yeah.
It's like before you know it, it's 2,500 downloads a day, and then it's like going past 5,000 downloads, and the curve keeps bending up, and it's just like, is this the new normal, or is this going to keep going? Obviously, it's a little, when it's a viral play, it's a lot out of our hands. Yeah. It's, are we packaging a product worthy enough that people will get their friends to champion it? So far, so good. But, that it's just like, you think you get this new normal, then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wow, that was, we were so happy there, but that was nothing.
Yeah. So now it's like pedestrian, like you get 20 grand, 20,000 downloads a day, and it's like, that's normal for me, right? It's funny, the perspective, but 3 million. I mean, I have to ask. 3 million downloads is an incredible accomplishment. I think that there are very few companies. Everybody puts themselves up against Rovio and Angry Birds and 200 million units, and you know what? That's a corner case in any business. It's like Google's a corner case. It's like Apple's a corner case. Not every company grows up to be those companies. And Rovio is one of those. And, a year from now, you're going to not remember Rovio or Angry Birds, and you'll see somebody else, right? Now, the question I have is, like, how do you get to 3 million? Like, I understand that it's viral. The nature of the product is viral. But you have to have a good product. Right? You have to get people to use it and keep them engaged. So 3 million is a great accomplishment, but how do you do that virally? Man, like...
I will be very candid. It's, part of it was we saw an opportunity, July 2008, and said, this is a unique moment in time. Mm-hmm. Get a name, establish in the App Store, get on their lists, and that is going to be really the foundation of your success. So you look at some of these others that have gotten funding, but came even some that they got funding and came in this around the same time, maybe struggling a little bit. But even firms that have raised a lot of money that are coming online here in 2010 or 2011, it is a much steeper hill to climb than it is for us, because where we've gotten ourselves in that virtual mall, the App Store. So that some people say we're lucky. I'll say we were very thoughtful, and that said that this was a unique moment in time. We have to execute now, which was the spring summer of 2008. And so I think that's the core of the question. The other part of it is, or the core of the answer. The other part is probably several parts, but very disciplined execution. We pay a lot of attention to negative use cases. Yep. And trying to be as prescient as we can, looking in that crystal ball to avoid them. I mean, I'm sure the apps, regardless of platform, are littered with people who did not consider. Actually, I can remember one very specific. I don't remember the name of the app, but they finally shut it down and said, you know what, we cannot control the adult content and the illicit content. And we give up.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work, but you really have to understand use case. You couldn't figure it out in advance. You're a founder or initial employee. You got to be prepared to work insane hours.
Yeah.
It's I have taken a handful of days off over the 3 years. I'm just now starting to. I get really genius to take weekends off.
That's a founder right there. That's for sure. No vacation. Yeah. No personal time. No downtime. Always thinking about the business. But so one of the things that really attracted me to you guys is obviously the fact that you guys have built this social network up. You've created this, and I see it on multiple levels. One of them is getting the product into as many hands as possible. The other is ensuring a great user experience, and the other one is obviously making sure that the technology doesn't go down. Were those the three big challenges, or were there other ones that and the fourth obviously is making money, turning this into a living? But was there anything that else that I'm missing in the kind of challenge of building something like this?
Yeah, the scaling. I mean, it's great that you mentioned that, because we haven't touched on it. We kind of ran out of, to be very candid, ideas at one point. When was that? Anyway, some time ago. And Bryant reached out to a guy that he'd worked with and thought very highly of for years. And we brought John into the team. And I mean, it's just gone from scaling from, geez, are we going to cap our own growth and potentially doom us?
Yeah.
Or are we going to figure this out? Thank God for John that he's able to just look. He gets into this areas that probably he was specifically trained for, but he just gets into the bowels of our system and architecture, working with the entity that hosts our servers, and just has got this great knack for figuring out choke points and making them go away. So I mean, the scaling a huge challenge. I mean, the lesson learned for me in this is thank goodness that Brian had that relationship, but it's really going through your Rolodex and figuring out not someone who's necessarily got the right skill set, but also has the right attitude.
Right.
That will just be a freaking bulldog on whatever it might be. Yeah. And just keep going at it, whether it's user experience, scaling, all the operational overhead that goes into something like this. And there is, I wish we could make that wave that magic wand, make it go away, but it's got to get taken care of, and it's got to get taken care of well, whichever phase of part of the company you're talking about.
I mean, scale is so important, because it's always like, there's a company that I know you've heard of, 37 Signals, that talk about, about building to need, not to scale, right? So building to what you need now, and then if you fail, that's a good sign. Don't overbuild your infrastructure. Build as you go, and it's an interesting theory until you start failing. Your infrastructure starts failing, and you've got angry people who use this, and the burden of change is not very high in the mobile space, right? Especially now. Right, so it's not like you've built something in your CRM system and it's going to be a pain to get everything out and convert it to somebody else. It's like, oh, okay, it's not working. Okay, go over here, and then that service is forgotten.
Yeah.
So I would say that building to scale, and building your scale, or the ability to scale, is as important as building a great product. Because if it doesn't work, you're done. Right? Yeah, attention span, nothing. So, I mean, having the right people. So, I mean, I think that there's always, you talked a little bit earlier about luck. Maybe somebody's saying that you guys were lucky in getting in that right spot. But you know what? I think that business in general is part insight, right? Part, vision, part hubris, and then a good part luck, right?
And I would add also a good part of willing to, I keep using this expression, all in. It's like, we're committed to this idea, and come back to where I personally was in '95. I had this consulting thing on the side. It was making, for me, great revenue, but I fundamentally did not have the courage to go all in, walk away from the job, the benefit of the pension. Yeah. And there's a lot of people with good ideas and who are great coders or great marketing or great business development guys, but you are severely handicapped if you're not going to go all in.
Well, I mean, I'm with you. I'm all into that statement, Steve. All into that statement. So now you've got this, and obviously, who's here is product one. I would assume that you've established product one. or is that the product, or do you want to build out other products that kind of complement the same kind of virality, the same kind of concept?
That's a great question. That's one I'm going to dodge.
More to come. How's that? Okay. Do you feel comfortable with the product's state now? Like, is this kind of, no, okay.
I mean, literally on my own list,
yeah.
I have 200 sets of features. A lot of them are vast majority are very small, tactical things,
yep.
but fundamentally could, improve the experience for, X% of the users for a specific use case. Some of them are very strategic. I know Bryant's got a lot of thoughts, as does John as well. So, yeah, there is no satisfaction on any aspect of the business, whether it be UI, features, users, messages per users, revenue per user, marketing, business development relationship.
You're not there. I mean, and I think that's a perfect sign of a true entrepreneur, is that you think that there's a threshold where you'll be satisfied at, and when you reach that threshold, you're just totally not. It's you see the opportunities beyond that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we keep having these moments where we're like, oh, we got to be proud of ourselves. And then, we kind of smile for about 5 minutes and like,
okay,
yeah, it's like next challenge, or hey, remember when we said that was tomorrow's problem? Well, now it's today.
Yeah. So you pat yourself on the back and then you move forward. Stephen, I think that every time we exchange, I have many more questions, and I'm going to try to wrap it up. But I really do want to understand the lay of the land today. When you look out there and you see, there are many challenges. How do you guys keep relevant when there is now a lot of competitors in this space, not only for revenue but for eyes and mind share, and how do you keep ownership of your users?
Well, I think the answer is a couple things. One is, we watch. There's not a lot of people that really do exactly what we do,
yeah.
But so we watch a lot of indirect competitors, if you will,
on the periphery. Sure, yeah.
And one of the things that we believe in is release drumbeat, where we strive to get an update out every month, and we see lots of rewards from that. Excuse me. And we're actually taking a pause for that because we only choking on our own advice, but and there's a very specific reason for it. But that is, I think, a big part of what gets users re-engaged with Who's Here if they may be taking a pass. But the other side of it is we execute the meet people nearby that you don't know very well, very uniquely. Mm-hmm. There is no registration process. There is literally not one required field in our profile. So you can be as anonymous as you want. Some services require, a solo headshot,
yeah.
Ostensibly yourself.
Yep.
No, well, guess what? My wife just wants to use Who's Here for the free texting with me to bypass AT&T.
Yep.
So she's literally got a picture. Her profile picture is outside the deck, looking out the backyard. So someone who, couples or families that want that use case, they can't use it for someone that's requiring the headshot. We have a mutual matching. So in order for me to see you in Who's Here, you have to be looking for some of my characteristics.
Okay.
So unlike, I don't want to pick on a brand name, but other sites or applications, here I am, 39 years old. I could look for all the 20-year-olds that I want and reach out to them, but they're not interested in chatting with a 39-year-old married guy. So that's,
no.
So I could look for them, but I'm not going to see them unless they're open to seeing some of my characteristics. So mutual match.
Yep.
You don't have to give us your location. We can let you randomize your location to a degree. So if you're concerned about that, you can set even a tolerance over within a certain distance that people will no longer see how far away you are.
Okay.
So we really have thought through, and there's several more layers of how we can make our users very comfortable with that they know they are in charge with their personal information, their identity, and their location. And additionally, we have functionality that no one else has thought to or taken the time to emulate us. And one of the great things we have is free voice over IP. And again, there's no personal information. So if I text you in the app, I only have a send button. If I call you in the app, all I have is a dial button. And I can only use that dial button, by the way, if you give me permission to call you. So there is no Skype ID, there's no name ID, there's no email address. So to the degree that you're like, Steve is someone I don't want to talk to anymore, you take away the privileges to call me or you outright block me, guess what? I have no personal information, no handle to try to create a new account to try to come at you again.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like you've thought that through, that whole process through, from every angle, in order to be able to ensure that the end user is in control.
We certainly haven't figured it out perfectly, but I think we've certainly done it the best.
Well, we talked right before we went live about you are an iOS only application. Only on Apple iPhones, iPads, and iPods, iPod Touch. What about the other platforms? When you start to think about scaling and increasing the reach, Android is certainly a strong contender. RIM is still, from a business standpoint, there's always an opportunity for who's here in a business or a trade show context, right? Have you thought about Windows Phone 7, Android, or BlackBerry OS?
Absolutely. I mean, all the time. The list of 200. The low end is the tactical, big end strategic. It's a matter of when resource and market timing is right. So market timing now is absolutely right for Android. It's a matter of getting the resource in place to do that.
Yeah.
RIM, not the right demographic for us right now with our current functionality set. So market not right, resource not right. Windows Phone 7, we think that's going to be a real interesting one. I think the demographic has the potential for that is going to be really spot on for us. But you just look at the number of handsets, and Android's naturally going to be in front of that.
Well, it's interesting, but so Android is really where you guys are eventually going to. I guess the foray into another operating system would be Android, just simply because it's it's going to be prevailing.
And part of the reason why we've taken a slow road to it is we're finally seeing from our humble, really got to be wise with resource perspective, is Google is going in a way that makes it so much more appealing for a firm like ours. Mm-hmm. The recent announcement of if you want to see I might have the exact details because it's been a month or two since I've read up on this, but the carriers want to see the next version. They have to agree not to modify it or do the extensions. Right. And right.
Exactly.
Thank you. When you hear I believe it's the CEO of Rovio saying, we're so sorry about the user experience that many of you have on your Android devices. We're going to do a Angry Birds Lite.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is a really less than satisfactory answer to the person that is going to get and have to use the Lite version of a phenomenal application.
Yep.
So that is a huge improvement from where we just would not be able to do Droid 1, Droid 2, real keyboard, fake keyboard,
big screen, small screen, yeah.
So thank you for that. And the other big thing from the we're fundamentally managing a business here.
Yeah.
So Google and I'm real interested to see what happens on the Amazon front with their store, but Google with the in-app purchase, that's really making those two things combined really make the story, infinitely better for a firm like us.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, I think that if you think about all in right now, I mean, if you look at what Amazon's doing with their Android store, it's really kind of like the early days of App Store for Apple, where there's a huge opportunity because there are a limited number of applications in Amazon's marketplace, and Amazon by heart are retailers. They understand retailing. Google doesn't.
That's
right?
a good point.
Yeah, so like there's an all-in play for you right there. Is there's still great opportunity to be involved in that, and I think that those are what entrepreneurs should be looking for, like you guys did. Is that, look, we know we have to be there. Let's find a spot. It's not serendipity as it's just serendipity is almost identifying a niche a year later that hasn't been addressed in the marketplace, like the auto industry, right? If you're looking at for a niche in iOS apps, take a look at how many auto apps there are out there, automobile industry apps. There's like 12. Big opportunity. Entrepreneurs need to take those. There is serendipity. But what you guys did, you saw an opportunity, you jumped on it. There was a good chance that it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But it did,
yeah.
right? And that's what differentiates. It's how long you can stick it out. Look, Stephen, what I love about what I do here is that I get to meet guys like you who are, fundamentally altering, the way that, this business wouldn't have existed 3 years ago, which is pretty incredible, right?
You got to give a super shout out to Apple. I mean, they created a new standard of phone. They created a new standard for app distribution. They created a new standard for promotion of virtual storefronts. I mean, it's like it's an expression Brian uses all the time. It's like, we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and they have created an opportunity for us to have this business. And Google's an amazing company, but Google now has a whole new business because of what, Apple created a whole new space.
I know, it's pretty amazing, and it's and it happened so quickly. It sprouted up so quickly.
Yeah.
So, and that's what makes what I do really, really fun is to see where this technology is going. And I take an hour of your day, and you've been very giving and of your time and insight. And I just want to thank you for doing this and enlightening those people that are watching or listening for Untether.
It was my pleasure. I mean, it's been a fun hour, and anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. I've been speaking with Stephen Smith, who's the co-founder of myRete. Like an hour later, I've almost got it. And their app, their current product right now is Who's Here. It's available on in the App Store. And just to recap, it's 3 million users, 2 billion text messages that are going through. Profitable company on combination of ads, in-app advertising, and virtual goods. Well worth listening to this over and over and over again to pick up on the nuances and the advice that Stephen has shared here, which is phenomenal. Stephen, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
You bet, Rob. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And for those who are still watching or listening, the Untether crowd, I love you. Thank you for being a part of this. If you have any comments or suggestions or critiques or questions for Stephen, throw them my way at untether@gmail.com, or you can find me at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. And go to myRete, which is MYRETE.com, and you'll find all the information that you need.
Yep, about the iTunes buttons on the kind of bottom left of the screen.
Yeah, so go and download it. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob. Take care.
All right.